Good morning, everyone. So today I'm going to make a video showing you kind of my procedure all the way through from beginning to end. So here we are getting ready to feed the starter. Do this first thing in the morning on the day that you're going to bake, or at least on the day that you make your dough anyhow. And give it a little bit of flour. Follow your normal feeding schedule that you would do. Get our flour in there. Then we're going to get a little bit of water in there. And we're going to start mixing it up. You want to get this really well incorporated. You want to make sure you stir it really good. Get all that flour mixed in there. Get all that food for your yeast and bacteria. You don't have to worry about over mixing it. You can mix it as much as you want. You kind of want that gluten in there anyhow. Scrape down the sides. Let's get all that flour in there. As long as you get all the loose flour, and if you got any starter left on the sides, that's not a big deal because it's going to rise up and leave stuff on the sides anyhow. And scrape down your mixing stick. And try to get all that stuff in there. And then give it another good mix in to get all that anything else that hasn't been incorporated. It says you can give it a really good mix. Scrape everything down again to make sure you get everything in there as much as possible, so you've got enough starter for whatever it is that you're making that day. Kind of scraping down this to get the stuff in there and kind of give you like a good nice level base to start with, so you can know how much it's going to grow. Set your lid on. Mark the current level of your starter so you know when it's risen to at least double. Generally, once it's reached double, or where you know your starter better, but once it's reached its peak is when you're going to want to use it. Mine usually just about doubles. So now it's gone through a few hours. We got to the point where it has doubled up, pretty close to doubled. So now we can start making our dough. You need your scale so you can get your measurements correct. Turn the scale on, get your bowl on there, zero it out. And the way I do mine is I start with some water. So get your water amount in there. We're making our classic, just basically white bread. Sourdough white bread, that is. And I'll put the recipe down in the description so you can see for quantities. But again, it's pretty much just a procedure. You guys can make whatever you normally would be wanting to make. I'm just kind of giving you the how-tos here. So then I zero it out again. I add my salt. Then give that a really good stir. You want to get it mostly dissolved. You want to get most of this salt dissolved into the water so you don't end up with like flakes of salt mixed into your dough, which would work. It takes a little bit longer to get incorporated into your dough mixture. Looking pretty good to almost about in there. It says it doesn't have to be all completely dissolved. Just, you want to get most of it in there. Then you take your starter, and we're going to add your starter in. So you're going to want to zero out your scale again. And then add in your starter. Depending on the thickness of your starter, this can be a little tricky sometimes to get right on. But again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just get it as close to your measurements are. And then we're going to stir this in really good. Just kind of make basically like a milky water. This will help get it all incorporated into your mix. Now we're going to mix in our flour. For this recipe, I actually use 2 different flours, so there'll be a couple different ones going in here. So this is just our King Arthur bread flour. And then with this recipe, I also use a little bit of rye flour. So I've got some King Arthur rye flour, dark rye flour here. There we go. And now you want to mix everything all together. It's going to make what they call a shaggy dough. This is I believe this is a 70% hydration, so it'll be a little sticky. Just want to get everything mixed together so there's no more dry flour around. Some days I do this, it comes together really good. Other days it takes a little bit. Depends on how humid it is outside, or in your house for that matter. See how it kind of comes away from the side of the bowl. So I'm pretty close to having it all together. Then you just want to kind of clean off, wet your hands a little bit, clean off your stirring device. And I always like just kind of bring it all together just a little bit more. Look around, see if there's any clumps or dried bits. Then cover it and set aside for your first rest. Now it's rested for a little bit, so now we're going to open it up and do our first stretch and folds. So you just take the top off, get your hands a little wet so you don't stick. You just grab one side and just take it and lift it up, stretch it out, and fold it over. Just go all the way around, kind of get all four sides. As you do it, it'll get tighter. You'll start to notice that the dough gets a lot smoother. And I always kind of like to go around and get them into more of a ball. And cover it back up and let it rest. Now we're going to do the next stretch and fold. So same procedure. Get your hands a little wet. It's starting to get a lot more stretchy now. The gluten's forming. So it'll give you all your structure in your final loaf. Cover it up and let it rest again. And here's another stretch and fold. It's getting really good and elastic at this point. I think we'll do one more possibly here. All right, so here we are. Give it a good stretch. So there's no tearing. Everything's pulling out really nicely. Cover it up. Now we're going to check it and see if we've got enough gluten formed. Going to do what they call a window pane. pick it up, kind of stretch it like pizza dough. If you can get it as thin as possible without it tearing, you know you've developed all that gluten. That was good. All right, so kind of form it into a little ball, tucking itself in on inside itself until you get a good skin on there. See how it's not sticky, really sticking in your hands anymore. Put it in, cover it up, and do your bulk ferment. This is where you'll let it rest and grow. Okay, so now we're done with our bulk ferment, so now we're going to shape our loaves. You take your banneton, take a little rice flour, coat the inside of it. This way your dough won't stick. Get your dough out. It's a little hard to tell with a round bowl, but it's just about a little bit over doubled. And now we'll shape it into our loaf. Stretch it out a little bit. Try not to break too much of the bubbles that have formed. You know, it should be nice and fluffy. Pull it in, roll it up nice and tight. Tuck in the sides. And put it in seam side up into your banneton. And kind of stitch everything together a little bit. Create some more tension. And then dust the bottom of it with some more of your flour. Use rice flour because it won't get sticky. Cover it up and place it in the fridge overnight. Next morning, when your oven has heated up, put your Dutch oven in the oven, turn on your oven, cook it up, get it up to this temp you want, and take out your bread, dump it out, dust off any extra flour, and then do your scoring. This is what will let the bread expand in your oven. Put a little design on it. I like to put wheat stalks on, and then just some little scores on the side. And then your main score right down the side. Keep your blade at about a 45-degree angle to the bread, not necessarily to the counter, but to the dough itself. And then get your Dutch oven out of the place your bread in. Cover it back up and get it back in, and set your oven to whatever your normal first round of baking temperature is. In my case, it is 480. If you want to prevent the bottom from getting a little too done, stick a pizza or a cookie sheet under the pan right away. Okay, so after it's cooked for its first round, in my case it's 25 minutes, go in. It's done most of the baking, and now it's risen up. Got a nice ear there. You put it back in uncovered for your second round, and you do this till your desired darkness. I usually start at about 15 minutes, lower the temperature down to about 450, and take a look at it. And when it gets to where you like it to be done, take it out. That opened up really good. You let it cool for at least an hour, and then you can slice into it. Let's see what the inside of this one looks like. Serrated knives work really good for this, or even better if you have an electric knife. And there you go. Put a little butter on it and enjoy. We'll see you in the next video.